What's going on, guys? In this video we're going to be lowering this Ram 1500 single cab. So here it is. It's an actual RT, even though it's got SRT 10 wheels on it. It belongs to our buddy Brett. And we've got, what size drop did you go with?
3.5.
So 3.5 IHC or INES. I think he's got 10 different names at this point.
Correct.
So INES, IHC, his kit is going to go on this. So he's got it all here on the bed. I just want to show you guys before we get started. Kind of what it looks like right here. It's monster truck style. So it's 2-wheel drive truck, and it's gonna look really, really good once we get this thing down. So we're gonna pull it into the shop in just a second, but give you guys a quick once around, let you guys see the fender gap. We got at least a fistful of room there, and it's gonna be mostly eliminated. And then here's like, we got a good like 8 inches there in the rear that is gonna need to come down. So there she is. That's the way she sits. You ready for this?
Oh, I am so excited.
It's gonna look good.
Right?
So
with everything else that you're gonna do to it, she'll look great.
All right, so let's pull this thing in, rip it apart, and we'll get to lowering the truck. All right, so truck is in, wheels are off, and we're gonna get straight into this. So this kit is not for the faint of heart. It's pretty in depth. So we got lower control arms, upper control arms. Those are the relocation brackets for the rear. Kind of just have things roughly laid out. There's a bunch of stuff over there for the rear. I'll show you guys in a second. We've got our upper ball joints. We got to bolt on to the upper control arms. Bunch of hardware, shorter end links. These go for the rear relocation kit. And then this bag exploded, but that's all our hardware for the rear stuff. So we're gonna get underway, and I'll show you guys over here this stuff. So here's some of the rear parts. We've got springs, shorter shocks, again, end links as well. And then we've got the bracket for our track bar, and then a couple isolators for the springs. So, and of course the brackets. So we'll have to end up cutting those off and having that good old time doing that. So pretty much gonna start ripping apart everything in the front end. Upper control arms, lower control arms. I might do one at a time, that way we don't have to completely drop everything, and I think that's probably a better idea actually. So I might start with the upper, get that into place, that way the upper can hold everything while we do the lower. So that's my plan. That way I can keep our tie rod and our brakes and everything just in place and just do one side at a time. So let's get it done.
Damn!
All right, so we ended up kind of just getting through this side of it just so I can kind of get myself familiar with the process, because I've done a lot of Beltec kits, and I've done a lot of suspension kits, but I haven't done the INES, IHC. What are we calling this again?
IHC, I think.
IHC, INES.
Correct.
It's
I have no idea.
So I got this all together. We still got to tighten up a couple things. One thing I will point out is there is a ton of discrepancy on these kits, we found out.
Huge.
So the instructions on our QR code on the actual instructions that were included said, cut the bump stop off. Then Brett watched a video from IHC, said, don't cut the bump stops off.
So we cut the bump stops off.
Luckily, I have these nice bump stops that we can put in here, and I think that'll be nice. An improvement over leaving the stock ones, because the stock ones only had a tiny bit of a gap. But bump stops are not included in the kit. Nope. The instructions say to cut the bump stops off.
Yeah.
The other instructions say don't cut the bump stops off.
I'm so confused. Another
instruction set said to cut the sway bar end links. Ours came with sway bar end links. Do we cut the ones that they came with? Are we supposed to keep the stock ones and cut those?
I'm confused.
The instructions said to cut our inner and outer tie rods. And then the video said don't cut inner and outer tie rods. That's your sway bar end link, so.
It looked like a par.
So I don't know. The instructions like warn you to make sure that you cut the inner and outer tie rod. They want you to chop off like 1/2 inch or something like that.
3/8.
3/8 off of the outer and inner, but then the video instructions say you don't have to do any of that. So I don't know. A little bit of discrepancy, but we're working through it. Anyways, this side's mostly done. A couple more things to tighten down. I'm gonna walk you guys through this side because we haven't done it, because I wanted to, like I said, get familiar with it. We tried doing it on the other side without taking the knuckle off. We hung the knuckle from the upper control arm and then took the lower out and then swapped out the upper. I would just take the knuckle off, it's easier. So we disconnected our ABS sensor, disconnected our brake sitting up here on top of our suspension there. And then what we're gonna do is bring it down. We're gonna disconnect our shock once we have it supported. The weight of the lower control arm is supported with the jack. You could use, you know, jack stands. I've also got them over there, but it's just easier, honestly, to just bring it down and do it that way. And then, yeah, loosen this, take this off, and then I'll show you guys once everything's kind of removed, the install process. And since we already removed the bump stop on the air side, we're going to do it on this side also, and then we'll install the performance one there. So that's the plan. Let's get to it. All right, so we just took the knuckle off. It's over there on the floor, and then now we can take off our upper control arm. It's just sitting here with the bolts loose. All right, so stock upper is off. And we're just resting our caliper up there on the top of the suspension. And then now we can get into this. Of course, sway bar is disconnected. You can leave this on here. You can take it off if your kit didn't come with these. Then you have to reuse it and shorten it like the one instructions say, or if yours came with the end links, then I'm sure you could just use those. So anyways, we're gonna bring this down and then we can loosen our shock and let the suspension kind of come out of there. All right, so floor jack, and then we disconnected the top of our shock there. So now you can either go up or you can lower your jack. So do it as if you guys potentially might be doing it. So if we go down with our floor jack, the suspension's gonna relax and we're gonna be relieving the spring tension like you see there. So shock's gonna fall out at the bottom too. Look at that. Got that automation. Okay, that's out of there. So I did take out the two bolts that hold that in, and then we can push this down, and then we can get our spring out of here as well. So let me get two hands on that, get this out of there. I've got the bolts loosened off of there, and we'll get this out of here.
About to get real.
So, oddly enough, one of the lower control arm bolts is seized in the bushing. So, we just went to the parts store, got these aftermarket ones because it's a Saturday and we want to keep going, but luckily O'Reilly's actually had these in stock because I actually am right by the main hub. So, we're about to zaw this out because it is seized in here. It's spinning the bushing. We tried doing whatever we could, putting penetrating oil on it. It will not break free. So now it's going to be cut free. All right, so ended up finally getting that old control arm out of there. We had to sawzall that bolt out of there. Got the replacement bolt in there. And then now we're going to bring this up. So put your shock in, and then it kind of holds your spring in place, and then you can use your jack, whatever you're using, to lift this up so you can get the spring into the spring pocket. The bottom of the spring, as per IHC, you don't put any of the isolator on there. It just goes bare metal on the bare metal. Up top, you use the isolator, the factory isolator on it. Then we can put it up, and then we can attach the top of our shock up there, and then that'll hold everything in place. All right, lower control arms on. We got our shock bolt there, and now that's all holding everything together. So we'll just use the floor jack, push it up into there, accomplish that. And now we can put our upper control arm on, and then we can get our hub, knuckle, spindle, all that on there. Okay, just moving along. I got the end link on here. This looks really close to hitting here. I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be, but it's the way it's kind of looking on both sides. Same here. It's pretty close to right here. So we'll see how that goes. Again, these are in the kit, or were in our kit. You can see IHC, but I don't know if we're supposed to be using the stock length ones, which are taller. The stock one is substantially taller, and I don't know if they want us to use that one or not. It's not obvious as to what we're supposed to do, so I will keep you guys posted what we do end up doing. All right, guys, well, we still haven't made it very far, so we are fighting with this. So instructions say to bend your frame. I'm not joking. We've bent this probably a good 1/4 of an inch this way, and even this one, we've bent this a good almost 1/2 an inch that way, and it is still not fitting this control arm. So whenever we try to put it in, the control arm is too tight this way. It will not slip in. So there's no way to stretch that control arm. So the other one was tight, but this one, and then it also says to grease the frame to get it in. and it tries popping out as you're trying to put it in. So it's fun, just like that. So we're gonna keep fighting with it and try to force this thing in here, but it is not a good fit. We are using a jack to bend this to actually fit the truck.
It is so far off. It literally at least 3/4 of an inch to even try and get it into where these bolt into. I'm speechless.
So we'll let you know. We're kind of just monitoring how much we're pressing this thing out to actually get it to stretch, and then we're gonna test fit it and we'll show you guys the results. Look at that. Now she pops in there. Push that thing in there.
I'm trying.
Spoke too soon.
Thanks.
There we go. Alright. I think we can get it now. Alright, hold up. Let's get one of the bolts. I think that front one's probably about ready. Alright, so here's another problem, is you cannot even get a cotter pin in here. Like, the ball joint doesn't fit fully into the knuckle, so I'm having to cut a cotter pin in half, and just I've cranked the hell out of this thing and can not even get half a cotter pin in here, and it's not engaging on all the threads on the lower ball joints. So not ideal at all, but it was the same on both sides. So I'm just trying to cut a cotter pin in half to get this from not backing off. But yeah, another fun part of the kit. All right, so we got the front done. Everything's tight. Like I said, hopefully this clears that. I did have to, the kit didn't include it, but this hole was large, like in so much that that nut would almost pass right through it. So I had to find a couple washers for there. So got that in there, but everything's tight. Double checked everything. All your grease and Zerk fittings here, you're gonna have to pump them full of grease, but other than that, it should be on here. So again, not sure on the front end alignment if we're supposed to cut the inner and outer tie rods like the instructions say, or one of the instructions say. Another set said we didn't have to, so not sure there, but let's go ahead and move on to the back and get that underway. All right, so we're working on the rear. I kind of want to show you guys this little method that I came up with. So we left the other side completely attached, and then we just dropped down this side. So we disconnected both control arms, took out the shock, took out the spring, and then I was able to come in here, plenty of room to work with, cut the bracket, and we installed this. Also did end up welding a little strip across the back just to give it a bit more support. My boy actually, Jose in California, kind of put me on to doing that. When he installs these brackets, he always welds a little strip across the back just to keep them from shifting around a little bit. So, and then you'll see over here, we haven't done anything on this side. It's all still stock. And then what we're gonna do is reattach the other side, and then we'll do the same thing, drop this down. This should put it to about here. We'll be well out of the way of the gas tank. We can cut this off. I used a plasma cutter to cut it off. Cleaned up all the brackets and whatnot with the angle grinder with flap wheel. And then we dusted it with some paint, as you saw there, and kind of just got it in place. So that's how it looks. And brackets are labeled P for passenger, and then we'll go ahead, this has to connect here, but once we bring this back up into position, we should be able to get that on here, and then we'll get that down and get to the other side. All right, so ended up cutting this off. So if you guys are curious what I cut, where I cut, take a picture of that, screenshot of that. So I just cut that off of there, clean that all up, and then I'm gonna get some paint on there. We also got to cut off the bump stop cup. So there's two tack welds, one here, one on the other side. Just nip at the tack weld, and then you can hammer it off. We'll take that off, and then we'll be done most of the cutting and grinding for now. I do also have to show you guys one other spot we're gonna have to notch out, but we'll get to that after. So we just sawzawed the welds on it, and then you just work it with a hammer, and then she comes off. All right, so we got the brackets all bolted up. We ended up drilling our holes. So get your brackets all lined up. Pretty much line up this line with that flare on the frame, and then clamp it, drill it. You can put the control arms first, but if you put the bolts all in like we did with the nuts on the back, you can get a pretty good representation of where it's gotta go. And then also, I like to just run a little bead of weld on the back, like I think I showed you guys on the other side. And then we just touched everything up with paint. We still gotta put our track bar link in here, but I wanted to show you guys, we also did this. So these springs not my instructions, but they are instructed to cut them to length. So these are a 4-inch drop. We've got a 3-inch drop on the front, so we want a 3.5. So the instructions say to cut one complete coil off. So we just use a cutoff wheel, cut that off, touch it up with paint, and then this is ready to go on. All right guys, so everything is in. So we took one coil off, and I will tell you guys, you have to like compress the truck. These shocks don't just go in easy at all. You have to put weight in the bed. Brett had to jump in the bed just so that we could get the axle to go up. So just with the truck under its own weight, the shock was still like an inch away, and then we had to like put weight in the bed of the truck just to get it to match up. So this is like got a ton of preload on it. So
300 pounds.
Yeah. What else can we tell you about the kit? We added these little bump stops here. Don't know whether we'll need them or not. The kit advises actually cutting this whole pad off, which we didn't do because we kind of still wanted to keep that pad. I might try to get some sort of bump stops that goes into there, but at least this is something, so it's not metal on metal if he ever bottoms this out.
Most of the grease zerks didn't work.
Yeah, all the grease fittings on the front end, none of them worked, so we have to, I think 1 or 2 of them out of the whole thing worked. So we're gonna have to get some new ones of those. It looks like we're gonna have to, it looks very strange. I don't know if you guys will be able to pick up with this, but like the wheel, this wheel is like that, and that one is, if we go over here, like looking on a crazy angle. So obviously it needs alignment, but just bolting things up, it looks pretty wild. And we put all of our cam adjusters in the original positions when we took it apart. Either way, it needs alignment. It looks like the toe is out like crazy too, so we might have to at least adjust the toe just to get things kind of into place. Also ended up putting these bump stops here. Again, it says you can keep the stock bump stops, but they were like really close, so we ended up going with that. Yeah, overall we'll see what happens. Like I said, sway bar is really close to hitting the frame, but hopefully it does not. It doesn't appear that it has yet, so I think we should be good on that. Yeah, let's get this thing on the ground, see what it looks like. All right, so just put it down on the ground. It's looking pretty decent, if I may say so myself. Then there's the rear. It definitely has some settling to do, but yeah, that's kind of the look of it. I'll show you guys more once we wrap it up, but this thing's towed out like crazy. So we're like 2 inches towed out. I just threw these toe plates on here. So we're gonna put it up. It looks like we're gonna have to cut off about 1/2 inch on the inner and outer tie rods on each side. And then we're gonna have to suck this thing in quite a bit to try to get it to drive straight, at least to the alignment machine. All right, so went ahead, we just cut that 1/2 inch piece off the end of here, and then we cut 1/2 inch off the tie rod, and now we're gonna reassemble it. Okay, so we just used my toe plates, and we just zeroed out the alignment. So Brett's over here measuring. We just adjusted the tie rods, and then if you look over here, I just locked in the steering wheel straight. So I used one of these tools. If you guys want these tools, I'll link them on Amazon too. So the tool that holds the steering wheel and then the toe plates, and you guys can get yourself at least able to drive to the alignment shop without the tires screeching. So got that all locked in. I'm gonna just lock the tie rods, and then she's good to go. All right guys, check this out. So here she is. Drove around the block, nothing too crazy, so I'm sure it might settle a little bit more. Front end I'm super happy with. Again, these are 22s. They're SRT10 reps. I think there's 285. What's the side profile on these? Let's check it out right now. 285, 45, 22s. So that's how it fits on the front. Back is probably gonna have a little bit of settling going on, but I think if it were to stay this height after settling, I think I would probably take a little bit more. Again, we took out one full coil. It was supposed to be a 4-inch drop. Taking out one coil is supposed to make it a 5-inch drop, but I think the back has to go down just a hair. So I think I'd probably be cool with taking out one more coil if it were to stay the way it is now. But I will tell you, we are gonna replace the rear shocks because the rear shocks are absolutely a joke. The back end, here, film this for a second. I'll show you guys when I jump on the back. It's literally like a trampoline. And you can hear the shocks making that big thud sound. So, and I don't know if you guys see it afterwards, it like bounces like basketball. So, not desirable going down the road, so we'll end up upgrading those shocks, probably some QA1s or something like that, but I'll keep you guys posted on that part. All right guys, so that's gonna wrap for this video. I probably have dirt all over my face because this was a long project. This was my first IHC kit that we just did. There's definitely a learning process to it, but we're gonna get it aligned, so it'll probably settle in, like I said, maybe a little bit lower, but I'll keep you guys posted on this. This is our buddy Brett's truck. we're documenting the full build on this. We're also doing a cam, a bunch of other stuff to it. It's gonna be a pretty cool little ripper, kind of more of a daily style truck, not so much race focused, but still a fun truck. I'm sure a lot of you guys would probably appreciate this type of build, a little more practical, a little more obtainable for most of you guys. But anyways, I'll link all the products down below that we use to get this done. Also the tools, some of the specialty tools that I would recommend getting if you guys are gonna tackle this. So anyways, thanks for watching. Check out the other videos on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, give it a thumbs up. See you guys in the next video.